The monsters thought the alien girl was finished. Their claws closed around her. Their eyes burned with hunger. On the dead moon of Krylon 7, no one survived alone. But the monsters had made one terrible mistake. They didn't know a human had just arrived. And humans never abandon someone in danger. A hostile world. Krylon 7 was not a friendly place. The sky was dark purple and full of lightning that crawled slowly across the clouds. The ground was broken rock mixed with glowing red cracks where heat escaped from the planet's core. Most intelligent species avoided this world. But Lyra, a young alien explorer from the peaceful Illyrian civilization, had not planned to be here. Her small research ship had crashed during a storm. Now she was alone. Her silver suit was damaged, and her breathing mask flickered weakly as it struggled to filter the toxic air. She leaned against a sharp rock, trying to stand. But the creatures had already found her. They were called grave crawlers. Large, fast, and extremely hungry. 6 of them circled her slowly. Their long limbs scraped against the stone as they moved closer. Their eyes reflected the purple lightning above. Lyra held a small energy blade with shaking hands. But she knew the truth. She could fight 1. Maybe 2. But not 6. Not here. Not today. The hunt begins. The first grave crawler lunged forward. Lyra rolled sideways, barely avoiding its claws. Her blade flashed and cut a shallow line across the creature's side. The monster screamed. But instead of retreating, it became even more aggressive. Another creature jumped from behind. She blocked the strike, but the force threw her against the rocks. Pain shot through her shoulder. Her weapon flickered weakly. Great, she whispered to herself. The monsters closed in again. Slow. Patient. They knew she was getting weaker. One of them stepped forward. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of sharp teeth. It was ready to finish the hunt. A sudden explosion. Then something unexpected happened. A bright streak of fire tore across the sky. The monsters paused. A loud explosion echoed through the valley. Dust and smoke rose into the air. Lyra looked up in confusion. Something had crashed nearby. The creatures hesitated. They could smell something new in the air. Something unfamiliar. Something human. The human appears. A tall figure stepped through the smoke. His armor was scratched and partially burned. One shoulder plate was missing. But he stood calmly, holding a strange weapon that glowed with blue energy. The man looked around slowly. Then his eyes landed on Lyra. Then on the monsters. He sighed. Yeah, this looks about right, he muttered. The grave crawlers immediately turned toward him. New prey. Fresh prey. The human rolled his neck slightly as if warming up. All right, he said calmly. Let's do this. Humans fight differently. The monsters attacked at once. But the human moved faster. His blade ignited with a loud humming sound. The first creature jumped. The human stepped forward. One clean swing. The grave crawler split in half before it even touched the ground. The others rushed him. But humans were unpredictable. The man kicked a loose rock toward one creature's eyes. While it reacted, he threw a small metal sphere. It landed beside 2 monsters. Catch, he said. Boom. The explosion blasted them backward. The human spun and sliced through another creature with terrifying precision. Within seconds, 3 monsters were already dead. The remaining ones hesitated. They were predators. But they were not stupid. This prey was dangerous. The rescue. One creature tried to grab Lyra from behind. But before it reached her, a metal cable shot through the air. The human pulled hard. The cable wrapped around the monster's neck. With surprising strength, he yanked it backward. The creature crashed into the rocks. A final strike from his blade ended the fight. Silence returned to the valley. Only the distant thunder of the purple sky remained. The human powered down his weapon. Then he looked at Lyra. You okay? She stared at him in disbelief. You fought them alone. The human shrugged. Yeah. He extended a hand to help her stand. Name's Captain Rowan Hale. She accepted his hand slowly. I am Lyra of Illyria. Rowan nodded. Well, Lyra of Illyria, he said with a small smile. Looks like we both crashed on the worst vacation planet in the galaxy. She almost laughed. The beginning of something bigger. But their moment of relief did not last long. The ground beneath them suddenly trembled. A deep rumble echoed through the valley. Rowan frowned. That doesn't sound good. The ground cracked open nearby. From the darkness below, something massive began to rise. Something far larger than the creatures they had just fought. Dozens of glowing eyes opened in the darkness. Lyra's voice trembled. That is a hive titan. Rowan slowly reactivated his blade. Then he smiled. Well, he said, guess we're gonna need a bigger plan. And on that broken world, the alien girl realized something powerful. Humans weren't the strongest species in the galaxy. They weren't the oldest. They weren't the most advanced. But when things looked impossible, humans did the one thing no one expected. They refused to quit. And the monsters of Krylon 7 were about to learn that lesson the hard way. The awakening. The ground split open like a wound in the planet's skin. Dust and glowing debris poured into the deep crack while the valley trembled violently. Rowan and Lyra struggled to keep their balance as the earth groaned beneath them. Then the creature emerged. Slowly, terrifyingly. A massive armored head pushed through the broken rock. Plates of dark mineral covered its body like natural armor, and dozens of glowing eyes scanned the surface. The hive titan had awakened. Even the grave crawlers would flee from something like this. But Rowan did not run. Instead, he stared at the monster with the calm focus of someone solving a difficult puzzle. Lyra grabbed his arm. We cannot fight that, she said urgently. Rowan tilted his head. Fight it? No. He smiled slightly. But we can definitely annoy it. Human strategy. The titan continued rising from the crater, its body stretching higher and higher until its shadow covered half the valley. Every step shook the ground. Lyra felt a deep fear in her chest. This creature was ancient, powerful, and nearly impossible to destroy. But Rowan's eyes were scanning the terrain around them. Broken rock formations, old mining structures, collapsed towers. Then he noticed something. Far across the valley stood a half-buried mining drill tower. A massive industrial machine once used to cut through planetary crust. Now it was abandoned. Rusting. But maybe still functional. Rowan pointed toward it. See that old tower? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, but it has been dead for decades. Rowan grinned. Good news. Humans specialize in fixing dead things. The chase. Unfortunately, the hive titan had already noticed them. Its massive head turned. One of its glowing eyes locked onto Rowan and Lyra. Then it roared. The sound shook the air like thunder. Moments later, dozens of smaller creatures crawled out of the cracks around the titan. More grave crawlers. Lyra's eyes widened. We must move. Rowan didn't argue. They ran. The valley turned into chaos as rocks collapsed and monsters surged toward them. Rowan fired short bursts from his plasma rifle, knocking creatures away while Lyra used her blade to defend their path. But they weren't trying to win. They were trying to reach the tower. Behind them, the titan slowly began to move. Each step created tremors that nearly knocked them off their feet. The creature was enormous. Slow, but unstoppable. Reaching the tower. After several exhausting minutes, they reached the base of the old mining structure. The tower leaned slightly to one side, its metal surface covered in dust and corrosion. But the main control hatch was still intact. Rowan forced it open. Inside, the control room was filled with ancient machinery. Most of it looked completely dead. Lyra shook her head. It cannot work. Rowan cracked his knuckles. Let's find out. The human touch. Rowan immediately began pulling open panels and connecting wires. He worked quickly. Not carefully, but efficiently. Lyra watched in confusion. You are bypassing safety systems. Yep. That is dangerous. Also yep. Sparks flew as Rowan rewired a power core using pieces from his damaged armor. He adjusted old circuit boards, replaced burnt cables. Then he flipped a large switch. Nothing happened. Rowan frowned. Come on, come on. Then suddenly, the entire tower vibrated. Lights flickered to life. Ancient motors groaned. The giant drill mechanism above them slowly began to rotate. Lyra stared in shock. You revived it. Rowan smiled proudly. Humans call that creative engineering. The real plan. Outside, the Hive Titan was approaching the tower. The ground shook violently as it moved closer. Rowan looked at the massive drill spinning above them. All right, he said. Now comes the fun part. Lyra looked confused. What is the plan? Rowan pulled up an old geological map on the control screen. He pointed to a deep fault line directly beneath the Titan's position. This moon is unstable, he explained. One big shock in the right place. He tapped the screen, and the ground collapses. Lyra's eyes widened. You want to drop the Titan into the planet? Rowan grinned. Exactly. The bait. But there was one problem. The Titan was still too far away. They needed it directly above the fault line. Rowan grabbed a portable energy beacon. He adjusted its power level. Hey big guy, he said. Let's get your attention. He threw the beacon far into the valley. The device activated instantly. A bright energy pulse exploded into the sky. The Titan turned. The signal mimicked the energy signature of prey. The creature moved toward it immediately. Lyra held her breath. The Titan stepped closer. And closer. Then finally, it reached the exact point above the fault line. Rowan slammed his hand onto the drill control. Fire! Planetary power. The giant drill tower roared to life. The massive drill slammed into the ground with unbelievable force. The shockwave traveled through the crust. Deep underground. Directly into the fault line. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the planet cracked. The ground beneath the Hive Titan shattered. Massive sections of rock collapsed inward. The Titan roared in rage as the earth beneath it gave way. Slowly. Then suddenly, the massive creature fell into the collapsing chasm. Dust exploded into the air as the valley shook violently. Finally, silence. The Titan was gone. Aftermath. Rowan leaned against the control panel. Well, he said, breathing heavily. That was exciting. Lyra stared at him with amazement. You defeated a Hive Titan, using a mining tool. Rowan shrugged. Humans don't always fight harder. He smiled. Sometimes we just fight smarter. But their victory did not last long. Because suddenly, a signal appeared on the control screen. A transmission. Unknown. From orbit. Lyra's expression turned serious. That signal. She looked at Rowan. It is not a rescue. Rowan crossed his arms. Let me guess. More trouble. Lyra nodded slowly. Much worse. And high above the broken moon, a fleet of warships had just arrived. A fleet in the sky. The sky above Krylon 7 slowly filled with shadows. At first Rowan thought it was just the storm clouds shifting. But then the shapes became clearer. Massive ships. Dozens of them. Their hulls were black and angular, glowing with cold blue engines that lit the purple clouds from above. Lyra stared at the control screen in horror. That is a Zerath Dominion fleet. Rowan folded his arms. That sounds unfriendly. Lyra nodded slowly. The Zerath conquer systems. They strip planets of resources and enslave any civilization they find. Rowan looked back at the cracked valley where the Hive Titan had fallen. Let me guess, he said calmly. They're here for the same thing we found. Lyra nodded. The ancient signal beneath this moon. Rowan scratched his beard. Well, that's inconvenient. The ancient secret. Lyra activated the crawler's deeper scan systems. A holographic map appeared between them. Beneath the valley, deep underground, something massive pulsed with energy. It wasn't natural. It was ancient. Rowan leaned closer. Old Earth technology. Lyra nodded. Yes. Something extremely old. Possibly thousands of years. The signal pulsed again. Powerful. Controlled. Alive. Rowan whistled softly. Okay, now I'm curious. But before they could investigate further, the sky flashed. A beam of light struck the ground nearby. Drop ships. Zirath soldiers were landing. The invaders arrive. The first dropship crashed into the valley floor with heavy force. Its door opened with a metallic hiss. Tall armored aliens stepped out. Their armor looked like dark crystal, and their helmets glowed with red scanning lenses. Each carried heavy plasma rifles. They moved quickly and with military precision. Lyra stepped back nervously. There are too many. Rowan checked his weapon. Yeah. Probably. The soldiers began spreading across the valley. Searching. Scanning. Hunting. And it wouldn't take long before they found the crawler. Rowan looked around the control room. Okay, he said quietly. Time for another human plan. Humans never quit. Rowan pulled open the crawler's main power console. The old machine hummed weakly. Lyra watched as Rowan connected several cables to the ancient signal scanner. What are you doing? She asked. Rowan smiled. I'm asking for help. The console sparked. Energy surged through the machine. For a moment the lights dimmed. Then the underground signal suddenly became stronger. Much stronger. The ground beneath them vibrated. Lyra's eyes widened. You are activating it. Rowan nodded. If the Zirath want this thing. He flipped the final switch. Let's see what it does. Humanity's forgotten weapon. The ground exploded open in the center of the valley. Stone cracked apart like glass. From deep underground, a massive structure began rising. Metal. Silver. Ancient. It looked like a gigantic tower buried beneath the planet long ago. Lines of blue light activated across its surface. Energy filled the air. The Zirath soldiers froze. Their scanners began screaming warnings. The ancient machine awakened completely. A glowing ring expanded outward from the tower. A defense system. Built by humans thousands of years ago. Before most alien civilizations had even reached space. Rowan stared at the tower in amazement. Okay, he whispered. That's awesome. The Zirath panic. The Zirath commander shouted orders. Their soldiers aimed weapons at the tower. But it was too late. The ancient human defense system activated. Dozens of automated drones launched from hidden ports along the tower. Fast. Precise. Deadly. Blue energy beams cut through the air. The Zirath soldiers were overwhelmed instantly. Their dropships attempted to retreat. But the defense system was faster. Energy cannons from the tower fired into the sky. 2 ships exploded immediately. Another lost power and crashed into the mountains. The remaining Zirath fleet quickly realized the truth. They had attacked the wrong world. Within minutes, the surviving ships turned away, retreating into space. The battle was over. Without Rowan firing a single shot. The quiet after the storm. The tower slowly powered down. The drones returned to their stations. The valley became silent again. Lyra stared at Rowan with disbelief. You awakened a human defense system that has protected this planet for thousands of years. Rowan scratched his head. Honestly. I just pushed buttons and hoped for the best. Lyra laughed softly. You humans are impossible. Rowan smiled. We prefer the word creative. A new understanding. They stood outside the crawler watching the ancient tower glow softly in the distance. The sky above Krylon 7 slowly cleared. For the first time, stars became visible. Lyra looked at Rowan thoughtfully. I used to believe humans were chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous. Rowan raised an eyebrow. Used to. She smiled. Now I understand something. Rowan waited. Lyra looked toward the stars. Humans are not the strongest species. Or the oldest. But when everything seems impossible. She turned toward him. Humans find a way. Rowan laughed quietly. Yeah. We do that. The real legend begins. Above them, a small human rescue ship finally entered the atmosphere. Rowan's emergency signal had reached the outer colonies. Help had arrived. Lyra looked one last time at the ancient tower. A forgotten piece of humanity's past. A symbol of human creativity and resilience. And she realized something important. Across the galaxy, many species feared humans. But maybe they misunderstood them. Because humans didn't conquer the universe with strength alone. They did it with imagination. With courage. With the refusal to give up. And sometimes, all it took was one stubborn human warrior to remind the galaxy exactly why humanity was so dangerous. And so extraordinary.